Hello everyone. I hope you are able to see my screen and hear me out. I'm still trying this whole Twitch thing out. But welcome to the seminar number 5, where we will once again continue where we left off the last time around. We had this short seminar 4.5 where we just did some animations. It's worth checking out if you're interested in how we animated all the steps here on the screen that we have. But we didn't really learn anything new in it, so it's kind of a fast forward seminar anyway. But today on the 5th seminar we are going to concentrate on especially two important things. First of all, we are going to create a safe kind of a safe mechanism that makes sure that players have learned a certain piece of information that requires us to create some custom values in the globals menu. And second of all, the most important thing of this stream will be a play menu. Hopefully we'll get far enough so we can create the whole play menu, but we'll see how it goes. So without much further ado, I do want to remind you that this is just imaginary example. This is not Escape from Babylon, which is the practice project. So I'm just coming up on rules as I go, and the intention of this exercise is to just highlight and go through all the things that you will need in the future when you're building Dized tutorials. So most of the things I'm showing here you might not even need when doing your practice project. So let us begin. So first of all, we ended up at the end of the round. So all the players have had their turn, whether it's 2 or 3, and they had learned about the villages or not. And then the logic broke off and we are on our way. So let's start creating. First of all, we are going to kind of round the loop or the flow back in the left side of the screen. I do like to keep it like that, so whenever you learn one thing it advances from left to right, and then when, for example, a new round or something new starts, it advances to a new place. You could put it straight right from here. It kind of depends on you, as long as it's easy to read for you and for the publisher who is going to get your tutorial at some point for themselves as well. So I'm going to start creating the waypoints. We had the waypoint 004 up there, so I'm gonna name this waypoint 005. There we go. And I want to check that we did reset the values. Yes, we set the turn as 0. We might need that later. So after the first round is over and the turn counter had hit 2 or 3, I want to reset it here. So okay, that is the waypoint, and then we'll do an introduction to second round. We can do it here. This is kind of a mid-turn flow, so I'm going to do it from right to left before we start the next round from here. You can do it any way you want, but this is kind of my approach, how I want to typically do this. So we name this round 2001, start autoplay is true, we'll put a voiceover on it, and second round starts. Now we're gonna hit the mark where we are going to realize that maybe the players didn't learn about the villages on the first turn. Maybe no player ended up there, especially when playing with 2 players. There might be a situation where nobody reaches a village, and we want to make sure that everybody knows what villages are coming to the second turn. That might not be needed when you actually do your practice project. You'll have to kind of come up with the script itself, but in this imaginary game you will need the information when you're coming to the second round. So we are going to create a logic block that will control it. Let's move this a bit downwards so we'll have a bit more space. We'll call this logic, so we know there's logic inside, and we're just learned. So let's now figure out how we're gonna do this. First of all, we need some kind of a flag that would tell us whether the villages were learned about or not. We don't have anything like that yet, so let's start creating it. We want to put it here on the between when you click yes, we went to a village, we want to put a little value there that tells the logic that yes, we have learned about the villages. And to do this, we are going to need a custom variable. I discussed about this earlier. Now we're actually going to use them. We have the system variables that are pre-created here, turns and rounds, which we've been using, and players count. But now we need a custom one that tracks only one thing: were villages learned. So we're going to go to custom variables and we're going to add a new one. There are, when you click this string option, there are different variable types that you can use. Some are strings where you can put any sort of both letters and numbers. Numbers are of course numbers. Boolean is just true or false, and there are blocks, text, assets, voiceovers, so different kind of data can be stored inside. For this we will use a boolean and we will name it villages learned. And you can write a description here, which is useful when somebody else is looking at your flow later on. This variable checks whether the villages were learned. There we go. And as a default value, we don't select anything. We don't need to. So it's basically undefined at this point. So we save this, and now we have a custom variable that only that we can call, that only figures out whether the villages have been learned about or not. So after somebody clicks that yes, we reach a village, we want to add that there. So we don't want it to be a default next step, so we're going to remove that, and we're going to have this just do one thing: set variable villages learned as true, and go to next. So now when the flow comes through here, it will set the villages learned as true, and we're going to name this logic villages learned equals true. And why I named these like this, just to when an outsider comes and looks at the flow, they'll immediately understand what they are, even and they don't even have to go inside and check what the values are. You could also add it to notes. We'll use the notes field a bit later when we're doing the menu. So now we'll do, did you reach a village? Let's go here. We should have the question popping up there, and instead of this step we will go to logic villages learned equals true. So now when somebody clicks OK, yes, it will go here and set that value as true. We'll connect these, and it just flows through it. Now great. Well, if somebody goes here, that value will be true, and when they come here, this logic block will then dictate where the flow continues. So let's keep going. We will add two sorts of a little content loop here that will have 3 content blocks like this, and then another content block like this. Now if the villages weren't learned about, I'm gonna remove the default one here. If they weren't learned about, the flow will go here. Let's quickly name these which info 1, voiceover autoplay can be true. There we go. This shall be village info 2, autoplay. Yep. and the last one, village info 3. There we go. And this is called R2004. No, actually this is 5. I made a typo. Let's fix that. And warlord appears. Untrue. So let's create the logic now. So if we want, if this flag is true, it should flow to warlord appears. Then we don't need to teach about the villages at this point. So let's go inside. We will add a new condition, and we will check the no, not warlord, villages learned equals. Now, as we selected boolean as the type, it will have the menu here already, since it knows that this value can only be true or false. If it equals true, then go to block, warlord appears. If it's anything else, go to block, just called village info 1. Since we have only 2 options, I can use the if this then that, or else this info. So now we should have 2 flow arrows going into these directions. Connect blocks. We'll add subtitles here later on if we have time, since I do want to rather concentrate on getting the menu structure done, just in case we don't have time. So okay, we will add a content block here that will explain a bit how the warlord is set up. 006 and warlord setup. That can be probably false if I remember correctly, as it asks to do something. Okay, that is the mid round between 1 and 2. So let's continue and go to the actual round 2. This to the same place as the previous one. Name this as, once again, waypoint, since it only guides my flow. And then I'm gonna add another waypoint here. So now we're kinda in square one on the left side of the screen, and we can actually start learning about the next round stuff. So we're gonna have some warlord info here. The warlord info teaches the setup is just a setup. It puts the warlord on the board, but this info teaches about the warlord. So we will have, what was the last step called? 6. So this is round 2, 7, warlord info 1 there, and then another content which will be called another warlord info. There we go. That's great. And then we will actually, after warlord info, we are going to start with the actual round 2. This flow will change a little bit. If you saw the video we had, it looks a bit different, but we're gonna add some stuff in between the steps a bit later on. But we will build this kinda little by little, so it makes a bit more sense. First player, round 2. Let's add the subtitle there. And now, important part, we are going to introduce the play menu. And whenever we have a menu upcoming, we typically want to introduce it to the players. So from now on, you are going to play the game yourselves, and there will be a play menu that will help you if you have any questions. That is quite important information to give to players, so they don't just fall into a menu and they don't realize whether they should be following turns or just use the menu to have, if they have some questions. So it's very important to introduce it, as we will do here. I'm gonna add the text here just to show it also. Buttons. There we go. And then this is called R2011 and player turn 2. And after you have either won or lost, tap on this button that we will highlight in the animation. True. And then we will actually have the play menu, which is called R2012 play menu. And in a play menu, typically we don't want to have a forward button. You can have a text here. Keep playing. Oh, nice. So now we have we've taken the structure as far as we have the play menu here, but we need a couple of more buttons. So let's go create them. This is nothing new. You have seen a creation of these before, so I'm going to just do this pretty fast. I have the buttons in the UI folder, and I'm going to just copy and paste the buttons I already have. Button, let's see, what were they called in my example? Button village. Then I'm going to need to upload them. I should have them open here. UI. Yes, movement, victor, village, and warlord. Let's go here, seminar, UI, and the button should be here. Images filter is correct, so I should see them here. Great. I made these buttons based on a template that we have available for every content creator. It's available in Drive. I can drop the link when I upload the video. So this was called a button village. So it's that, and save. Then we will need another one. Copy, copy, copy. Warlord. And we do the copy and edit, and the warlord, and save. Then we have the victory button. And the last one was movement, I think. Let's see, movement, that's the victory. And then we have all the 4 buttons we will need for this example. And at this point I accidentally muted the mic for a couple of minutes, so I'm going to just have another voiceover explaining what I did. So I created the last button, the movement button, added a texture for it, and all the buttons are there. Now let's open this up and check whether the buttons are created correctly. We see all the 4 buttons there with the textures. Great. So now let's put the buttons in place. We will use the isometric view. When you click in the middle of the compass, it will take away the perspective, so it's easier to align things. I will click so that the angle is straight from above and just put every button there on place. And we will use the grid to align all the buttons perfectly. So if I remove the isometric view, you can see that it looks a bit different as it has a bit of an angle. So whenever I use the isometric view, I will just use it straight from above when creating buttons. Otherwise I use the normal view, which has the perspective, and I use it with every other scene I do. But for the buttons, we will use the isometric view, which you can access by clicking the middle. So now just aligning the buttons based on the grid below, just trying to get them pretty nicely close to each other. We could use snap to grid as well, but for this, just aligning like this is good enough. And the victory button shall be on the top bottom right corner, just to have it nicely there, kinda as the last button in the row. So now save and close, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, all the buttons are in place. That is perfect, just the way I wanted it to be. Now the next thing I was going to go through is that the fact that you could put all the logic inside the buttons themselves that we're going to do next. But it comes very difficult to read if everything is happening inside one content step. So instead, what we are going to do here is we're going to create more logic steps that will be easier to read and put kind of balance out all the logic that could be inside the content step within several of these logic steps. We'll start with one, and then we'll have another one after those. That will it will become much easier to read like that. Now at this point, I think I noticed that the voice is gone, and I'll return to the stream. What about now? It looks like for some reason the microphone had gone dead. I hope I wasn't quiet for too long. Can you let me know how far, when did my voice die out? I think I had a quit button, like a shortcut key to disable the microphone, and I probably clicked that. Whoops. All right, let's meanwhile, while you're typing how much you lost my lovely voice, I'm going to name this menu structure. There we go. During creating buttons. Okay, great. Then we didn't lose a lot. The only thing I was referring after that is that you could push the logic that we are creating now inside the buttons, but it will make the flow very hard to read for anyone outside coming to look at your flow. So we are going to put dedicated logic blocks for everything we have here. And since we are going to create so-called jumpers where the logic the flow will go to another block and there will be no arrows connecting them, or you won't see them. So it will be hard to read if you don't create a proper structure. When you're more advanced and you know what you're doing, unlike me, you can do that logic inside the buttons, but for clarity's sake, it's recommended to kind of do this with logic buttons and as many as needed. So first of all, we are going to create a logic structure. Now what we want to do, let's start with one. So when somebody presses the warlord button, it should throw them to the warlord info segment. Now how are we going to do that? One way, of course, is just to have, when you push the button, make the arrow go this way, and that's it. But then when you have a lot of menu buttons, those arrows will fly to all directions, so it will become very difficult to read. So what we are going to do is create a jumper. So we'll start here. We are going to go to create another variable, custom variable, which will be called jump node, and we can save a destination step in this variable. We will change it to a block. And now we can, during the tutorial, we can save a destination to this variable, and it's called jump node. We're gonna create another one which is needed for the flow to come back to the menu rather than taking the long route and coming back from way behind with the same route as it came before. We're gonna give this, for example, menu value and these you can name as you wish. These are just my naming conventions, and this will be a string as I'm going to just put numbers in it. Now we have two more custom variables. One controls, we can save a block there, a block identification number, and the other one is just the string variable where we will store some information that we need when we do this. So let's go to the actual play menu, and we click the Warlord button, and we will start putting logic in it. So first of all, we are going to set variable. The menu value that we created, we're going to set it as 1. So why we do this is because when the flow goes to the Warlord, we want it to exit before it goes through. Okay, it's round 2. This is the menu. We don't want to hear about that over and over, so we have created a custom variable that will check if you come from this menu. And how the tutorial knows about it is when you click this button, the menu value will be 1, and we'll use that shortly. And then we will have just go to next. Great, now somebody pushes this button, it will set the menu value as 1 and go to next. So it will go here to the logic block. And what happens in the logic block, we will create another one. This will just dictate where the flow goes. So let's create another logic block here, which is called logic go to, and actually just use this go to Warlord info. This, and now I'm gonna use the nodes. Jumper node that will guide the flow to Warlord info step. Now anybody who sees this step, anybody who knows how to read flow, it will understand that this step will go to the Warlord info segment, which is here. That's why I name it and give it a note, so even if a publisher checks this out, they understand what is happening here. So that is good. Now I'm gonna remove the default connection between these two and have it done in a way that, let's create a new condition. If menu value that we set in the button equals 1, then go to block Warlord info. Now if somebody pushes the Warlord button, it will record the menu value as 1, go here. If the menu value is 1, it will continue the Warlord info. Now the problem is when you're coming to the Warlord info, we're going to need an additional step, since I'm gonna now create the subtitles we have here. To move the Warlord, throw the die, and add 2 to it. Then move it as many spaces as the value is. That's the first text, and then if the Warlord ever catches player, everybody loses. There we go. Since we want the Warlord to move immediately, do it now. We'll add that text there as well, and autoplay can be false. Now when somebody clicks the Warlord, we don't want this to be the first step. We actually want to give the information that was here again, but we'll use different words for it. So what we'll actually are going to do is add another content step there, and this will be called R213. It's going to be called Warlord Info 0, and each round of the player's movement, the Warlord tries to touch the players. Now, since this information was given here before the Warlord setup, we don't want the flow to go here and then tell about the setup again, so we'll just create a new step for it. Now this will be only in the flow when you come from the menu, so when you come here for the first time, you are going to actually skip it. So now we want the flow to go to the Warlord Info 0 when you click the button. So let's see how that is done. There we go. Let's go to Warlord Info. So this is pretty easy. It can be a bit difficult to understand in the beginning, but it will make a lot of sense after everything clicks. So we created the custom variable called jump node, and in the jump node we had the option of saving step information. So what we can save in jump node is step information, and we want to save the Warlord Info 0 here. That will be called jump node. So now whenever jump node variable is called, it will actually refer to this step. Now when we have put a go to block, and we will give it a variable name, we'll change the value to variable, and we will give it a variable name. It won't actually draw the connection lines between the steps. I do understand that this might not be the easiest way that this should be done. There should be, and there will be, an option to hide the arrows in the future right in the steps, but currently this is the way how we can do it. So when the tutorial, the flow goes to a variable, it will not draw any lines. Now when I save this, let's close this. You see that even if there's a go to block, there are no arrows. Now when we click the play menu here,
keep playing. Each round after the player's movement,
it went to the Warlord Info 0. So that is how you create steps, and they don't have any arrows between them. So you need to use a variable, which is a block, and in the block you will be able to store the information of the block. Okay. Now the second problem, which is when somebody comes here, they are going to get the information again unless we have some kind of a interruption here on the flow. So we do not want players coming from the menu to see this information again. We want them to return to the menu straight. So let's create that next. We will of course need logic for it. Let's first move these a bit further, and let's put something in between. So we want here a little check that will figure out whether players are coming from the menu or not. And how are we going to do that? You remember that continue or return to menu, we had a custom variable that we called menu value. So when somebody comes here for the first time in the tutorial, the menu value will be 0, and the tutorial flow will continue through. But when somebody comes from this play menu button, the menu value will be 1. So, very simple. We will create a logic here where if menu value equals 1, then go to block. We haven't created that yet, or else go to block. What was it called? Let's go see. 009. Round 2009. Now let's create the logic that will be another jumper node. Come on, where are you? There. And it's called logic. Well, actually go to back to menu. Since it's a jumper node, I use the go to name. This will return the flow back to the R2 menu. R2. There we go. And now we will kill the default. Next step. So warlord info will flow here. Connect blocks, and it will check whether the flag or the menu value is 0 or 1. It's 0 in the first time, so it will go through. In this, when you come from the menu, it's 1, and I want it to go to this step. And again, now we're here. We wish to create the same jumper logic. Since I don't want to draw the arrow here, I could. It's a short way. It doesn't cross over anything. But for example's sake, I want to do another one of the jumpers. And also, another important thing that we're going to put here is that we need to reset the menu value. So unless you reset this and the tutorial goes around the flow again, and it might lead to unexpected results, so it's good to always remember to reset the values that you set for these return to menu nodes, stuff like that. So first thing we do, menu value is set to 0 again, and note it does happen after this step, so it doesn't matter if it's 0 or 1 at this point when it's already the flow is here. So we're gonna reset it here, and once again we had to set the variable which is called jump node. Now the jump node is something else at this stage, but we will R2 now set it to R2. Where is the play menu? That, and once again we set go to block, and if we put jump node here, it will not work since this go to block is searching for a value. We'll change it to variable. There. We reset the menu value. We set variable called jump node. We store this block information there, and then we will go to variable called jump node, and we shall not have any lines drawn. That is the basic on how to do a jump menu structure. So now when somebody comes here,
keep playing.
Clicking this will take to the should take to the warlord info 00.
Each round, after the player's movement, the warlord tries.
And now when I click this twice, it will give the 2 pieces of information about the warlord and then return the menu.
To catch the players. To move the warlord. If the warlord ever catches, keep playing.
There we go. And now when we are here, you can see that the where is it? Menu value is currently reset. So when I click this
Each
here,
round,
it will be
after
1.
the player's movement, keep playing.
And that is how you create the basic structure for play menu. Now let's create the rest of the buttons here as well. So we need a few more logics. We had 4 buttons, one of which will actually just be kind of a continue the tutorial, while 3 are actually go to someplace else. So we'll create 3 go to blocks and 1 continue to end of game, which we will cover, I think, in the next seminar. Let's finish this up first. So now one more logic. There we go. This will be go down below, and we will call it continue to the end of game. This will not be a jumper, this will be a normal flow that we will push to go to the left side. Once again, like that. And then these 2 will be another go to block and another go to block. I could sync blocks. Let's see if it takes now. Well, that's worth a try. When you copy the block, it will actually bring the values, but these are pretty easy to do. So if there would be a lot more logic inside, I'd copy these, but right now when it's just creating these 2 things, that is it's not worth doing. So this was called, this shall go to the movement info. I have a cat situation here. Okay, don't jump on the keyboard. Come to my lap. There you go. Movement info movement, and then go to block. Once again, we change the variable and we put it to jump node. There we go. And go, oops, go to info on movement. And then the last button was villages, I think. Go to info on villages. I should add the nodes here, but why shouldn't I? Let's set a good example. We'll guide the flow to movement info step, and this movement info step is in the round 1. If you recall this movement info segment, and it will have the same problem, that unless we create a return step and a return flow, it will just keep going through the flow. So we need another one of these there. So let's remember we set the menu value as 1 here. So for the movement, we'll set the menu value as 2. Since if we don't have it any different, set variable, the next block will not know where to go. Go to next. And for the victory thing, we created that one step already. Let's see what it's called. Continue the end of game. We don't need anything special for this. Just go to block, continue to the end of game. We can do it like this. So all the 3 buttons here, 3 buttons here will go through this structure. Actually, I don't like how this looks. Let's make it a bit more cleaner. Let's give this a 4 and go to next. There we go. Looks a lot better. So if it's 1, it needs to go to world info. If it's 2, it's movement. So as before, we'll just create another logic here as the Logic engine will start reading stuff from above, and it will continue until something breaks it off. So for example, go to a block or go to next or something that will actually stop it from reading the flow. So if many value is 1, then do this. If it's not, many value is 2, then go to block. It was called something something movement. Yep. Nice. And another one, keep reading. If the menu value is 3, then go to block, and it was called villages. So villages. There we go. And the last one that we created for the sake of the flow looking a bit better. Menu value 4 is called go to block, continue to the end of game. Perfect, and now we should have a nice little fan structure here. Let's close this up. Yay, looks good. And so far we only created warlord info. Let's create one more, the info on movement. So you will see another example how this is done, and then we'll wrap this up. So when the logic comes here, it jumps to info on movement. And we want it to exit after this one. Since we have a button for villages, so we do not need to ask about them when coming from the menu. Let's fix this up. So we will add the similar kind of a structure after this one. So let's add 2 logic blocks. One that will check whether the flow continues or goes to the exit block. I'm gonna actually drop these a little bit to give a bit more space here. So this is how you end up during the tutorial, adding steps and logic in between the flow. So it's always good to leave enough space between the segments, so you will have some space to raise and drop the blocks, a few of these grids. So logic, continue, flow, or return to menu. Got number 2, and this we need this flow to connect here. And the next step is logic ask about villages. It's good to remember that. We will need it now. So if the menu value is, do you remember we set it to 2? If it's 2, then it will go to block, which is called 70. If it's something else, so 0, that it will be in the first turn, it will go to ask about villages. There we go. In the first turn, menu value will be 0, so it will flow through this and ask about the villages. When you come through a menu, it's 2, so it will actually go to step 70. Go to return to R2 menu. And now once again, let's, just in case, first reset the menu value to 0. In this example, it might not be needed, but it's worth doing. It doesn't take a long time, and when you end up adding more and more logic steps in your flow, not resetting this value might screw a lot of things up. Once again, we set jump node as the play menu. We store it there, and then we will go to the block, we change it to the variable called jump node, we save it, and there we go. Let's try it. We go to the play menu.
Keep playing.
It was movement.
In the game, you move your meeple on the now just keep playing. Each round to move keep playing.
Okay, that is how you create a play menu. So now we know how to create a looping round structure that keeps looping until it breaks off. We have created a kind of a save switch here that checks whether something has been learned or not, and then teaches it, forces it to the players. Since you didn't learn about villages, now this is the information you will need. And we have created a play menu that will throw you around the tutorial and will not draw the arrows, since this will become very hard to read if they are there. And we have also created a return block structure where the logic block sees if a button has been pressed. This is one way to do it. You could do this other ways as well. It can be, you could set this as boolean, whether button has been pressed, true or false. You can figure out the best way you want to do it. I created like this with the menu value, and then it returns the menu without arrows drawn. Now, I do want to give a fair warning. When you start creating your logic and creating logic without any arrows drawn between them, it's very easy to create structure where you're very confused on what's happening, where the flow is going, and what's wrong when something doesn't work. So remember to give good information on the step names, on where the steps are actually going to, what they actually do. Write notes about what they are. So when me or someone else is coming to see what's wrong, it's easier to see what is happening. Using the jump nodes is not mandatory. You can always have all the arrows visible, so you will be able to very easily see where the flow is going, but this just is a way to create cleaner flows. So that is it for today's seminar. I'm not going to add the texts here right now during the seminar, since nobody just wants to see me type stuff. So I'm gonna actually just after killing the recording, finish up the texts here that are missing, and then probably I'm going to do another stream 5.5 where we'll just do quick animations on the steps. I'm a little completionist. I don't want to leave this hanging, since on the next seminar we are actually going to continue to the end of game. How you create the end of game. Did somebody win? Yes, no. Were there a tie? Stuff like that. How to wrap up a game properly. So that is it for this seminar. Thank you for joining up. It was we got everything done that I wanted to, so this was a very successful stream, and we'll continue in about 2 weeks again with the next stream and having that little smaller stream somewhere in between. So if you have any questions, please drop me a message. Otherwise, have a great day and a good Easter. Bye bye.